Are you a fighting game player? And is the flame of competition alive in your heart? If so, you've probably thought about entering a tournament. And in this video, I'm going to help you do just that. We'll be covering how to find and register for a fighting game tournament, how to practice leading up to the big tournament day, and how to mentally prepare yourself for the tournament competition. But before we get into any of that, we must address the question, how do I know if I'm ready to play in a tournament? You're ready when you aren't afraid to lose, when you aren't afraid to go 0-2. Conquering this fear looks different for different players. You can tell yourself you're just entering the tournament for fun, or you can say you're playing to improve. But at the end of the day, I know you're entering the tournament because the fire of competition burns brightly inside you. Going 0-2 is scary, I know, and it'll happen to 25% of the players in any given tournament. But courage isn't about being fearless, it's about being afraid and moving forward regardless. And to be completely honest, even after playing in your first, second, or fifth tournament, you might still feel like you aren't tournament ready. But having the courage to enter a tournament in the first place shows that you truly are ready for the competition. Also, know that your success in bracket isn't just based on your strength alone. There's a luck factor to it. A good seed could make a world of difference, and an unlucky seed could result in an untimely 0-2 score. Which is why I love Tampa Never Sleeps so much, as they run an 0-2 bracket to give newer players an opportunity to gain more experience. And that leads me to my next point. How do I actually sign up for a tournament? When it comes to finding and registering for tournaments, Start.gg is going to be your best friend. After creating an account or signing in using an existing Microsoft account, you'll want to head over to the Search tab. Type in the name of the game you'd like to enter a tournament for, and then click on the Tournament tab to see your options. Now, my favorite part of this website is how well designed the filter function is. For example, the easiest way to find tournaments accessible to you is to select Upcoming and Online. And just like that, we're showing all of the online tournaments happening within the next few days. And we can pick one that fits well into our schedule. The great part about online tournaments is that they are almost always free and in the evening. Just make sure the tournament is open to your region when you're signing up. Also, it's best that your Start.gg name and your Discord name are the same, as most tournament organizers will require you to join their Discord for the check-in process of their tournament. When you use Start.gg for yourself, hopefully you'll find that it's very intuitive and easy to navigate. But if you're having trouble understanding or using the website, do not hesitate to ask for help in the comments section. That being said, I'm going to include some tournament recommendations here. Specifically, these are for Strive players since the tournament scene is well established compared to Street Fighter 6. For beginners, I'd like to recommend BAN, aka Bracket About Nothing. It's a bi-weekly online tournament with a consistently solid turnout. Just know that you will only qualify for this tournament if you have a rating below 1500 on Rating Update and are on floor 10 or below in the tower. For intermediate players, I recommend entering in a tournament with a small prize pool, anything below $50. A couple intermediate level tournaments I've enjoyed in the past are Quad City's Fireball Series and Raw Super's Savage Series. These types of tournaments usually have smaller turnouts, but are still very competitive. And you're probably not going to run into top players like Peppery Splash. But if you are looking for tournament experience against top-ranked players, I recommend you look for one with a prize pool of $100 or more. My personal favorite is the online weekly Aegis, but any tournament with a large prize pool will do if you're looking for the best experience possible. Big money attracts big talent. The final tournament I'd like to recommend is Tampa Never Sleeps. This is a great weekly tournament series for players of all levels. Like I mentioned earlier, alongside their main bracket, they host another bracket for players that go 0-2. Since tournament experience is by far the best experience you can get in any fighting game, getting a second chance at life in the 0-2 bracket is a gift you do not want to pass up. I've competed in the 0-2 bracket myself, and it was a great time. Tampa Never Sleeps doesn't just host Strive tournaments either. They host tournaments for a variety of different games, and will definitely be hosting Street Fighter 6 tournaments as well. So by now, we've gotten over the fear of going 0-2, and we've registered for our first tournament. But how do I practice leading up to the tournament? Well, by practicing with intention, you will get better. It's not just a hope, it's a guarantee if you put in the work. Some people are naturally talented at certain skills, while others must work really hard to become talented. I'm personally a part of the latter, but the thing is, to clearly see your progress, you must stop comparing yourself to others. If you want to accurately gauge your progress, compare your bracket run today with your bracket run from yesterday. Sometimes you'll see improvements, and sometimes you'll see new issues that you must fix. But with the right mindset and a commitment to intentional practice, you'll begin to see an increase in the quality of your play. Now, I put a lot of emphasis on the phrase intentional practice, because I believe it's the key to improving in fighting games. Some players have the time to practice for 6 to 12 hours a day, but for most of us, that amount of free time just isn't realistic. That's why I recommend using something I call the 1/3, 2/3 method when preparing for a tournament. That is 1 part training mode and 2 parts matchup grinding. So if your tournament is at the end of the week and you have 3 hours a day to play, you would spend 1 hour in training mode and 2 hours playing against actual opponents. If you only have 1 hour a day to play, spend 20 minutes in training mode and 40 minutes against actual opponents. You get the point, it's just fractions. But the most important thing here is that you keep your practice consistent and focused on a goal. When in training mode, it's best to keep it simple. Doing 10 reps of 20 different combos or situations on both the right and left sides of the screen will do nothing but overwhelm you with information. Instead, spend that time working on 1 or 2 techniques until you feel like you're consistent with them, both in training mode and in an actual match. A narrower focus will allow you to master techniques faster. Now, if you're unsure what you should be practicing in training mode, you can find the answer you're looking for by reviewing your own replays or by watching high-level gameplay of someone who shares the same main character as you. When you review your own gameplay, look for an issue you have on offense, defense, or in neutral, and then head into training mode with the intention of solving that issue. This is your time to learn something about yourself and improve upon it. For example, if you keep getting thrown on your meaties, you should set a training dummy to jab or throw on wake up and practice your meaty timing over and over again until it's consistent. When you review gameplay of someone else, you should honestly look for things that they do that you think are cool and would like to replicate. This is your time to learn what your character is capable of. For example, I saw Noombahar use this Roman cancel spin technique to close the gap against a Happy Chaos player. And since I knew I was seeded to fight a Happy Chaos in tournament that week, I practiced the technique I saw Noombahar do until I could input it correctly every time. And to be consistent with the 1/3, 2/3 method, feel free to include VOD review of yourself and others in your training mode time. For the other 2/3 of your practice time, you should gain more experience against actual players. Whether it's ranked or against your buddies, this is your time to try out the things you've been practicing in training mode and learn more about the matchups you struggle with. Aside from enhancing your own skills and execution, this is also where you will be primarily expanding your knowledge of the game, either consciously or subconsciously. You see, there's something you can learn from every single player you face. Against players that are stronger than you, it's a good opportunity to practice your patience, prudence, and defense. Against players who are newer to the game, it's a prime time to practice your offense and those combos you've been working on in the lab. Even the most toxic of players could help you work on your kindness and ability to let things go. The final point I'd like to make about your practice leading up to the big tournament day is that it's okay to let your emotions flow so long as they aren't hurting yourself or others. After all, come the day of the tournament, all you can rely on is yourself and the game plan you've been practicing. So, in order to execute that plan to the best of your ability, it's important that you remain calm and don't allow your reasoning to be clouded in anger. And eventually, you won't even have to play at your best to perform well. While at the start of your tournament journey, it might require everything you have to take a single round off your opponent. Eventually, just 50% of your power will be enough to break free of an 0-2 score. And with enough practice, you'll be winning on accident.
I didn't mean to do that!
Small disclaimer here, this is what works for me. But obviously, you're more than welcome to modify the 1/3, 2/3 method in whatever way works best for you. So now that we've accepted the possibility of going 0-2, we've registered for our first tournament, and we've dedicated a portion of our free time to intentional practice, the only thing left to discuss is the mental game. Sometimes it'll seem easier to fight more experienced players than it does to fight those who are new to the game. Sometimes the more experienced players are also the more predictable ones. I mean, just listen to this quote from Hell's Paradise. "Rules are illusions. They don't function unless you can depend on everyone to follow them." And as ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu said, "You're only minus if you're a
counter."
Anyways, I'm just trying to say that it's important you do not underestimate anyone, because you never know what your opponent is capable of. But when playing in a tournament, your performance is going to be significantly more dependent on what's happening inside your mind rather than that of your opponent. The same way you have good days and bad days in ranked, you're going to have good bracket runs, and you're going to have bad ones. So just try your best, and try to keep a positive attitude, because you, your gameplay, and your placement will always be enough for me and the people who truly care about you. I promise you that. What matters much more than your performance is that you had the courage to compete in the first place. Now, this isn't scientifically proven, but I have recently seen a positive correlation between good attitude and high placement. This was especially true in a recent casual case study I conducted. After competing in a small tournament, I reflected back upon the behavior and mood of each competitor. Now, during top 8, it was obvious to me which players had the most experience and the best history of results when it came to tournament play. But what was interesting is that those players did not make it into grand finals. The players who did make it into grand finals were the ones who seemed to have the most positive attitudes out of anyone in the top 8, and that more than made up for what they lacked in experience or results. Well, what if they were just in a good mood because they were winning? While a solid victory can certainly improve your mood, the player who achieved the highest placement in the tournament was the same one who consistently said GG's and nice plays with a smile and a laugh in both the winners and losers sides of the bracket. That's right, even after they were knocked into losers, they were still smiling. Now, I know I'm referring to a small sample size, but the point I'm trying to make is that when it comes to tournament competition, your skills and practice are not the only factors that will determine how well you play. You see, the secret to becoming a strong competitor is finding a balance in your life and in your mind. Don't give up on your other passions or obligations just to make time for your fighting game practice. It won't help as much as you might think. When you start lacking in important areas of your life, such as your health, family, hobbies, work, or school, that lacking will poison the quality of your gameplay as well. Whether you realize it or not, failing to keep your priorities in check will cause unneeded stress to plague your mind. Your subconscious will focus on things outside of the game, and your performance will not be what it could. To the best of your ability, make sure you're taking care of yourself and your priorities, as achieving a sort of balance in your life will make for significantly less stress on the day of the tournament. After all, it's not like people who live carefree don't care about anything. They do care. It's just that everything they care about is already taken care of. So, could a strong mentality alone win a tournament? Yes, it very well could, but sadly, it's something most people lack, me included. The gift of a truly strong mentality only appears to those who have worked hard to achieve a balance, and by striving for that and committing to intentional practice, you'll find yourself pulling off surprising victories in no time. Side note, if you don't usually consume excessive amounts of caffeine, sugar, or other substances before you play, don't do it before a tournament either. It won't work like a PED and could seriously harm your mentality and gameplay. In the end, tournaments aren't just something that tests your skills as a player, they also test your strength as a person. But don't let that scare or discourage you, because tournaments will also make you stronger in both regards. They can be stressful, but regardless of your performance, you will walk away with more confidence and experience. They're also really fun and a great place to meet some really amazing people with the same passions as you. I really hope this video has helped you prepare for your next big tournament day. And if you've made it all the way to the end, please consider subscribing so that we can continue our fighting game journeys together. Also, if you have questions about anything tournament related or otherwise, feel free to ask me in the comments section. Since we're still a small community, I try my best to respond to everyone kind enough to talk to me in the comments. Anyways, that about wraps it up for now. I did make a Twitter, so if you'd like to follow me there, I'll leave a link in the description. And I'm working on a bracket run video as well right now, where we'll get a little closer to finding the truth about the king.